전류 흐르듯이. 와. 와.
귀나 몸에 딱 닿을 때 약간 전기 온 듯한 느낌.
맞아요, 맞아요.
막 전율이 좀 느껴지고.
맞아요. 묘했습니다.
그러니까 예약제로 운영한다니까 저
하루 6팀.
꼭 할 것 같아요, 저는.
그러니까.
네.
아이들도 좋아할 것 같은데.
아, 좋아하죠, 이거. 제가 아는 곳이에요, 여기는.
네, 그럴 줄 알았어.
왜냐면 마음이 평안해지는 곳.
모를 수 없지.
네.
모를 수 없지. 어디예요?
동궁월치.
동궁과 월지.
네, 동궁월치.
우리가 여기 온 이유는 경주 최고의 야경 명소이기 때문에. 물론 오늘 이제 이번 투어가 노정석 투어긴 하지만
그렇죠, 그렇죠.
경주인데 경주 같은 경주 같지 않은 뭐 이런 거. 그래도 여기는 특히 이제 해질녘에 빼놓을 수 없는 최고의 포인트이기 때문에
그러니까.
왔습니다.
아,
저기
네.
선생님 계시죠?
네, 안녕하십니까.
안녕하세요.
네, 안녕하십니까.
안녕하세요.
해설하는 사람.
우리 사극을 보면 동궁전마마 납시오
그래.
이런 거 많이 나오잖아요.
네네네.
그 동궁전마마가 동궁 아닙니까?
예, 여기
동궁이 사는
왕자들이 살고
네.
또 여기 한 건물은 굉장히 중요한데 그 건물은 왕이 드나들던 곳이에요. 근데 그 외부에서 오신 손님들을 접대하던 곳.
그러니까 잘 꾸며놓은 거 연못도
네,
막
네.
파고 뭐 이런 거잖아요.
네, 연못이 유명하죠.
이게 그러면 얼마나 됐을까요?
679년 이렇게 기록이 나옵니다. 통일하고 바로 그 초기.
근데 선생님 저는
예.
예전에 안압지라고 불렸단 말이에요. 옛날에는.
예. 안압지라는 거는 그 조선시대에 붙여진 이름이에요. 그 조선시대 이전에는 이 연못 이름을 몰랐습니다.
아 이름이 없었어요?
예, 그냥 몰랐어요. 그 모르니까
모르고.
조선시대 시인들이 없으니까 이름을 붙인 거예요. 발굴하고 어느 정도 알았는데 그걸 바로 또 못 바꾸잖아요.
그렇지.
그래서 이제 학자들이 여러 가지 자료도 삼국사기 이런 자료도 찾아보고 하니까 결론적으로 여기 동궁이 있었고 월지라는 연못이 있었다. 이렇게 해서 2011년에 공식적으로 동궁도 중요하고 연못도 중요하니까 동궁과 월지.
그 예전에 여기서 이렇게 풍류를 즐기면서
네.
제가 들은 게 있는데
네.
그 어떤 게임을 했다는 얘기가 있더라고요.
그 들으셨어요?
네.
주령부라는 게 있어요.
주령구?
네, 제가 이걸 가져왔거든요. 여기 14면으로 되어 있습니다.
약간 주사위 같은.
예, 주사위 같은 건데 이제 면이 14면이죠.
아 14면 주사위.
예.
술게임이구나 술게임. 주령구.
주령, 술주자,
네.
명령한다 할 때 령, 가출구.
이게 벌칙이구나 벌칙.
예, 벌칙이죠.
그 걸리는 대로 해라.
예,
아, 걸리는 대로
그렇죠. 예,
행동하기.
그렇죠. 뭐가 나올지 모르는 거죠.
그럼 뭐 대략 어떤
게 있냐면
네,
뭐
어떤 게 있는 거.
이제 풀이를 하면 술 석 잔 한꺼번에 마시기. 여러 사람이 함께 코 때리기.
한번 해볼까요, 저랑?
지금?
지금.
지금?
그렇지.
지금?
하면 뭐 나오는지 한번 던져보세요. 14분의 1의 확률이.
한자 안다고 그랬죠?
알죠 알지. 자 합니다.
자. 이게 뭐야, 이게?
금승장무. 이거는 노래.
금장모.
무. 금지한다. 소리성. 지을 작. 춤출 무.
오.
그럼 어떻게 해야 되겠어요? 그러면 노래 없이 그냥.
무반주로 노래,
맞아.
무반주로 춤추기네.
무반주 노래.
되게 웃긴다.
어떤 건지
집에
아시죠?
가시게요? 집에 가시게요?
신라 유적지여가지고 팝송 춤을 추는. 자 오배우.
책 한번 좀.
말씀하세요.
음진대소.
제일 좋은 거잖아.
괜찮네.
네, 받은 잔을
다 전부 다
다
마시고.
마시고 크게 이렇게
이거잖아.
이렇게 하는 거잖아.
원샷 때리고
원샷 때리고 웃기.
웃는 거잖아.
네.
오, 좋은 거야.
좋은 것만 걸리시.
네.
또 해?
한 번 마지막. 한 번.
마지막.
마지막.
선생님.
제가 하라고요.
선생님.
선생님.
제가 예.
자,
농면 공과.
녹면 공과. 녹면 공과.
이거
녹면.
진짜 웃겨. 얼굴을 간지려도 가만히 있기.
안 웃어요. 움직이지도
그냥
마.
안경 벗으세요.
이거 글자 모여서 보려고.
이거 진짜 웃기다.
제가 안경.
얼굴을 간지려도 가만히 있어야 되는 거야.
네,
근데 우리가 어떻게 어르신을 이거 간지럽게 해요?
제가 했죠.
네.
뇌사전이 걸리신 거예요.
벌써 웃고 계시네요. 벌써 웃고 계셔. 선생님, 마지막으로 요거 이름 한 번만 다시.
주령구.
주령구.
모양도 특이하죠.
재밌네요. 지금 조명이 들어오기 시작했어요.
네, 이제 조명이 들어와서 야경이 이쁘죠.
네네. 이제
그러니까
어두워졌다.
요 들어가셔서 보시면 되는데
네.
저 제일 중요한 게 저기 임해전 건물이거든요. 아까 그 주령구 가지고 놀던 곳도 저기입니다.
이게 지금 사실 여기 이제 동궁과 월지 달못이잖아요.
네.
이게 연못이 이렇게 굴곡, 들고남, 그 굴곡을 주어서 어지간한 곳에서 봐도 전체가 잘 이렇게 조망이 되기도 하고 약간 넓어 보이는 효과도 좀 있고.
그리고 이제 보시면 이게 조명 때문에 이 연못에 이게 같이 비치는 저 모습 때문에 사진도 훨씬 잘 나오는 거예요.
맞지. 그 이제 반영이라고 하는데
네, 그러니까
저게 너무 아름다운 거예요.
네.
어쨌든 그런 그 신라인들의 슬기로운 건축 생활 이것도 우리가 좀 엿볼 수 있지 않나.
이곳에 비밀을 캐러 왔거든요.
팔찌는 RFID 방식을 통해서 IoT 실시간 스코어링 기술을 할 수 있는 매개체가 되는 팔찌예요.
우리가 이걸로 점수가 나오니까 제대로 올림픽처럼. 자, 출발! 야, 뭐야, 너 왜 진심으로 해? 야! Look! Let's get it.
Things are heating up as the rankings shift in real time. Tag in with RFID, and your speed and item pickups are all tracked and scored in real time. Curious about your stats? Check the kiosk for your personal score. This is a playground where fun meets tech. And now, your racing adventure starts for real.
우선 저희 누나가 발레를 하다 보니까 자연스럽게 누나 발레 학원에 따라가서 누나가 하는 모습을 보니까 저도 하고 싶다고 생각이 조금 들어서 발레 음악에 맞춰서 아무 춤이나 추다 보니까 그냥 그 음악에 맞춰서 제가 몸을 움직이는 게 재밌다고 느껴졌었는지 발레를 계속 하고 있더라고요. 나이가 좀 어릴 때 제가 가진 장점이 무엇인지도 모르고 아예 제가 가진 단점도 모를 때 발레를 시작했다 보니까 제일 큰 문제가 이제 평발이었던 것 같아요. 평발이다 보니까 발레를 할 때 쥐가 조금 많이 나는 편이라 그거를 견뎌가면서 춤을 계속 춰야 했던 거 그게 가장 극복하기 힘들었던 것 같고요. 제가 다리가 다른 친구들보다 조금 두껍다고 해서 제 다리를 조금 싫어했었는데 근데 이제 로잔에 갔다 오고 나서 오히려 제 다리에서 나오는 파워풀한 힘이 좋았다고 해주시는 분들도 있다는 걸 느껴가지고 그 두 개가 가장 극복하기도 힘들었고 기억에 남는 것 같아요. 프릭스티 로잔이라는 콩쿨 자체가 학생들 사이에서는 가장 크고 의미 있는 콩쿨이다 보니 제가 그 로잔 영상을 보면서 자라왔기 때문에 그 무대에 서서 제가 춤을 췄다는 것 자체가 엄청 인상 깊었던 것 같아요. 제가 걸어왔던 길, 이게 맞는 방법일까? 근데 그런 의구심을 다 없앨 수 있게 제가 가는 길이 맞았다라는 거를 확인시켜줬던 것 같아요. 그래서 그런 감정이 들어서 조금 감격스러웠던 것 같아요. 한 배역에만 잘 할 수 있는 명수가 아니라 어떠한 배역을 받아도 다 넣어서 소화해낼 수 있는 그런 스펙트럼이 넓은 명수가 되고 싶습니다.
도시는 세계와 연결되어 문화를 창조했고 새로운 것을 받아들였다.
함께여서 우리는 더 자유롭고 더 멀리 갈 수 있어.
닫힌 문이 아니라 열린 질문으로.
나에게 에이펙은
자유,
융합,
국제성,
다양성, 포용,
개발.
신라의 정신이 에이펙 2025로 이어집니다.
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korea's ruling Democratic Party is now moving full speed ahead with judicial and media reforms. It seeks to nearly double the number of Supreme Court justices from 14 to 26, sparking heated partisan debate. The remains of a Korean college student reportedly kidnapped and killed by an organized crime gang in Cambodia was returned to South Korea this morning. Meanwhile, investigations on the repatriated Korean suspects from Cambodia are also picking up speed, with Korean authorities issuing arrest warrants for 48 of them. Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party leader Sanae Takaichi is set to become the nation's first ever female prime minister today, after her party agreed to form a new coalition with a minor party. We begin this morning with South Korea's ruling party's moves. It's now pushing ahead with its signature reforms, unveiling bold plans on Monday to reshape both the judiciary and the media landscape. Moves that have already sparked a fierce political debate. Our political correspondent Moon Hye-ryun starts us off.
The ruling Democratic Party in South Korea is accelerating its three major reforms following the passage of its prosecutorial reform bill. The DP's newly unveiled judicial reform proposal seeks to nearly double the number of Supreme Court justices from 14 to 26. This expansion, which would add 4 new justices annually until the third year of enactment, aims to speed up case handling and diversify perspectives in the top court. Given that the terms of 10 current justices, including Chief Justice Cho Lee-dae, will expire during his tenure, President Lee Jae-myung could appoint a total of 22 justices under this new system. The proposal has sparked heated partisan debate. The DP says the reforms are intended to restore public trust in the judiciary, not to interfere with court decisions.
Opposing judicial reform is no different from saying that. Given the opportunity, one would again make biased rulings based on political interests. Judicial reform is about legally ensuring political neutrality under all circumstances.
The main opposition, People Power Party, however, argues that expanding the Supreme Court is a way to exert political influence over the judiciary, calling it a destruction of judicial independence.
The judicial reform being pushed by the Lee administration is a judicial coup with zero independence and fairness, an attempt by the government to control trials and dictate their outcomes.
Other elements of the judicial reform bill include diversifying the Supreme Court Justice Recommendation Committee, introducing a judicial performance evaluation system, increasing public disclosure of court rulings, and creating a pre-hearing system for search and seizure warrants. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party also unveiled a media reform bill aimed at cracking down on false or manipulated information online. The proposal introduces a punitive damages system, allowing courts to impose up to 5 times the actual damages on media outlets or YouTubers found to have deliberately spread false content. To prevent abuse of defamation lawsuits by public figures, the bill adds a provision against cases meant to silence criticism. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
The remains of the Korean college student whose death spurred public demand for government action over crimes against Koreans in Cambodia have been returned to South Korea. And the investigation into Koreans suspected of involvement in phishing scams in Cambodia is now picking up speed. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
74 days after he was found dead, the cremated remains of a Korean college student known by his last name Park, the victim of kidnapping in Cambodia, have returned to Seoul. The remains arrived on Tuesday morning following a 3-hour-long autopsy in Cambodia by a team which included South Korean officials the day before. According to police, the autopsy revealed that there was no damage to Park's internal organs. The exact cause of death will be determined following further tissue analysis in South Korea and a comprehensive review of the investigation results from both countries. Mr. Park entered Cambodia in July and was reportedly confined by a criminal organization there. He was found dead in a car in Kampot province with signs of torture, which prompted public outrage and led to a government-wide on-the-ground response to crimes against Koreans in Cambodia. Meanwhile, investigations into the repatriated Korean suspects from Cambodia, allegedly involved as perpetrators in phishing schemes against Koreans, are picking up speed. 64 people were already detained and transferred to Korea by the Cambodian authorities, and Korean authorities have filed for arrest warrants for 59 of them. Arrest warrants were issued for 48 of them, but they too claim they were victims of torture and forced illegal labor.
전기 지지면에 고문하는 게 힘들었습니다. 진짜 죽기 전까지만 맞았습니다.
The Seoul Metro Police also announced a task force comprised of 40 officers for overseas kidnapping or missing person cases. In addition, the police also formed a team to look into the activities of Cambodian group called the Prince Group in South Korea, which has been identified as a key criminal syndicate operating in both countries. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Over in Japan, the country is set to make history on Tuesday as Sanae Takaichi becomes the nation's first ever female prime minister. The ruling Liberal Democratic Party leader is expected to be officially appointed later today, with both houses of parliament holding a prime ministerial vote this afternoon. Earlier this month, Takaichi won the LDP leadership race, securing control of the ruling party. Once elected, she will become Japan's 104th prime minister and the first woman to hold the office since the cabinet system was introduced nearly 140 years ago. So a major political shift is expected to take place in Japan, with Sanae Takaichi widely expected to become the country's new leader. For more on this, we're joined today by Dr. Kim Mi-kyung, senior researcher at Gyeongsang National University. Dr. Kim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
So it appears Sanae Takaichi will become Japan's new leader after all, now that the Liberal Democratic Party and the right-wing opposition Innovation Party, also known as Ishin, agreed to form a coalition government, right? What's behind this move?
Oh, yes. Japanese politics is interesting, or I should say exciting to observe for a change. Had it been business as usual, the Liberal Democratic Party with Komeito coalition could have easily garnered the majority votes to automatically qualify Ms. Takaichi, the president-elect of LDP, as Japan's next prime minister. It would have been the autopiloted trajectory given the coalition between the two parties, which started in 1999. But this time was different. Komeito decided to walk out of the partnership after its leader, Mr. Saito, had a meeting with Ms. Takaichi regarding the cabinet seat allocation. Mr. Saito reportedly asked for more seats for members of Komeito, but Ms. Takaichi's response was rather lukewarm. The interactive dynamic had something to do with Mr. Aso, a very influential political figure, one of the behind-scenes movers and shakers. So the LDP was in desperate need to find an alternative partner to form a new coalition to continue its majority party status. After intense lobbying behind the scenes, primarily by Mr. Aso, the very conservative Innovation Party, based in Osaka, has agreed to enter the partnership with the LDP. So with that, Ms. Takaichi will become the first female Japanese prime minister, as the anchor just has mentioned.
Right, so if she becomes the prime minister, she is expected to be here in Korea for APEC next week, right? And many critics are concerned that Takaichi may take a hardline stance against Seoul, especially on historical issues. What is her likely approach to relations with South Korea?
Yes, Ms. Takaichi is known for very conservative orientation towards history issues with Japan's East Asian neighbors. For instance, she denies the exploitative nature of Japanese military sexual slavery and extremely violent Nanjing massacre. She continued to pay tribute to the war dead, including convicted war criminals at the Yasukuni Shrine. But after the victory as the leader of LDP, she had stopped herself from going to the shrine in person. So it seems like she'll tone down her hawkish stance vis-a-vis Japan's East Asian neighbors on history issues as Japan's prime minister. And as you have said, I believe Ms. Takaichi will come to APEC to make an international debut. She'll have a good opportunity to meet and rub elbows with political as well as economic leaders in the region.
Right, and she is set to become the first woman to lead the Japanese government in centuries. And This breaks the country's political glass ceiling, but some worry that she will maintain policies that have held women back. Why is this?
Oh, you know, Ms. Takaichi has survived and succeeded in the male-dominated Japanese politics. And what it means is that she knows how to think, play, and win like a man. Her policy platform in particular is far from gender equality, such as married women's adoption of husband's surname. She argues that the practice is Japanese tradition, and she is also against the same-sex marriage. So when she was confronted with these criticisms, she began to promote the installation of daycare centers at workplaces so married women can manage career and caring work at the same time. But it does not mean she'll be at the forefront advocating Japanese women's rights. Because the latter, for example, is to encourage women's labor market participation in the middle of population decline. So let us not expect Ms. Takaichi to act like a feminist, or she will fight for women's equal rights in the Japanese context.
I see. All right, Dr. Kim, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he expects to reach a strong trade deal with Beijing at his upcoming meeting with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in South Korea. Meanwhile, during his meeting with the Australian Prime Minister at the White House, Trump also highlighted recent trade agreements with South Korea and Japan. Our Lee Seung-jae tells us more.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he expects Washington and Beijing to reach what he called a very strong trade deal during his upcoming meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea. The comments came Monday during a White House meeting with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, where Trump also highlighted recent fair trade agreements his administration has secured with South Korea and Japan.
We worked out a very fair trade deal. Japan, we worked out a very fair deal. South Korea, where I'll be meeting President Xi, we worked out a very fair deal. And I expect we'll probably work out a very fair deal with President Xi of China.
Trump reiterated that he plans to meet President Xi in a couple of weeks as South Korea prepares to host the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in the southeastern city of Gyeongju from October 31st to November 1st. The U.S. president is widely expected to make a state visit to Korea from October 29th to 30th, with the summit offering a key stage for renewed dialogue between the world's two largest economies amid mounting trade tensions. Those tensions have sharply intensified following Beijing's recent decision to tighten export controls on rare earth elements, materials that are essential to the production of advanced electronics, electric vehicles, and military hardware. In response, Trump sharply criticized China for what he described as an extraordinarily aggressive stance on trade, warning that unless progress is made, Washington will double down on punitive measures. Meanwhile, Trump and Australian Prime Minister Albanese signed a new agreement on rare earths and critical minerals on Monday. The deal aims to secure a reliable supply of these vital materials as China moves to tighten its control over global production and exports.
We are discussing critical minerals and rare earths, and we're going to be signing an agreement that's been negotiated over a period of 4 or 5 months.
The upcoming APEC summit now looms as a crucial test of whether the world's two largest economies can defuse another round of trade confrontation, or whether the latest wave of tariffs will deepen an already fragile global trade environment. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Industry Minister Kim Jong-kwan says that Washington is not demanding that the $350 billion investment package for South Korea's tariff deal is made entirely in cash. Returning from meetings with his U.S. counterpart Howard Lutnick on Monday, Kim said Washington has accepted Seoul's views on the specifics of the package. This marks a step back from Washington's previous position, which was seen as demanding a blank check where South Korea would simply provide funds. Kim also revealed that a consensus was reached on potential foreign exchange market issues, which he identified as the biggest hurdle. The two countries agreed to work towards a deal in time for the APEC summit in Gyeongju later this month. And every 2 years, South Korea showcases its defense capabilities at ADEX, the country's largest aerospace and defense exhibition. And at this year's event, the country's latest unmanned systems and enhanced defense equipment were on display. Our Park Jun-an was there.
The South Korean Air Force's Black Eagles aerobatic flight team is showcasing their spectacular flight performances. The team also painted the sky with smoke, forming the Taek symbol, the central emblem of the South Korean flag that represents balance and harmony. The Black Eagles also performed a formation named Heart and Cupid, drawing heart-shaped clouds in the sky. This airshow was the opening event of the Seoul International Aerospace and Defense Exhibition 2025, the country's largest defense-related event that promotes the excellence of South Korean defense capabilities.
Seeing it up close, it was just amazing. I thought about how hard they must have trained. Watching them fly made me feel more patriotic and connected.
It was so cool. I wish I could fly one myself.
Seeing it in person felt really different from watching it on YouTube. You can feel the thrill that videos just can't capture, and I really like that.
After the air show ended, visitors had the chance to take a closer look at the actual planes, helicopters, and various other defense-related machines. Following the conclusion of the 3-day air show, the defense exhibition opened on Monday. The exhibition will be open to the public for 5 days until 5 p.m. on Friday. This next-generation infantry fighting vehicle features technology that can counter drone attacks, a crucial capability in modern warfare. When asked about the future of modern warfare shaped by AI and unmanned systems, a senior research engineer said,
AI-based autonomous driving and detection tracking technology enables unmanned vehicles to enter hazardous areas without risking human lives. AI can also maximize effectiveness by refining and training data to suit South Korea's military environment. Based on sovereign AI, it is expected to prevent technology leakage and strengthen combat capabilities through independent AI advancement.
The operations team of ADEX 2025 said that this year's exhibition will serve as a stage not only for defense products, but also for highlighting next-generation innovations that shape the future of advanced air mobility. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-han, and this is The World Now. Starting in Israel, where U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Presidential Advisor Jared Kushner arrived on Monday to monitor the shaky Gaza ceasefire they helped broker. A U.S. Embassy spokesperson confirmed the envoy's return, saying they will meet members of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government to keep the agreement on track. Vice President J.D. Vance is also traveling to Israel to check on how things are going, acknowledging there will be fits and starts in the peace process. The delegation's visits underscores continued U.S. pressure to prevent a collapse of President Trump's 20-point peace plan, which includes a future stabilization force in Gaza and the disarmament of Hamas. Officials say Witkoff and Kushner will head next to Cairo for talks with Egyptian and Palestinian mediators. In Washington, White House Economic Director Kevin Hassett predicted on Monday that the 3-week U.S. government shutdown will end this week as pressure mounts on lawmakers to strike a funding deal. He said moderate Democrats could soon vote to reopen the government and that they had been waiting until after the weekend's No Kings protests. The Senate on Monday failed for the 11th time to pass a short bill blocked over disputes about health care funding. Hassett warned that if talks drag on, the administration may take longer steps to bring Democrats to the table. He said the president remains involved but believes the Senate must break the impasse, calling a breakthrough very close. U.S. tech giant Amazon says a massive outage of its cloud computing service, which caused global internet interruptions, has been fully resolved. The problem began early Monday, shutting down a range of online platforms from social media and streaming services to food delivery and banking apps. Amazon blamed a malfunction in its domain name system, which converts web addresses into Internet Protocol numbers. The company reported normal operations across the systems by Monday evening. Experts say the all-day disruption highlights the world's heavy dependence on a few tech giants to keep the internet running. Officials confirmed there was no sign of cyber attack, calling it a technical failure that Amazon engineers had repaired. Hollywood's biggest names filled Los Angeles on Saturday night for the Academy Museum Gala, where energy, glamour, and Oscar buzz dominated the evening. Starts from George Clooney and Penelope Cruz to Kim Kardashian, Hailey Bieber, and Robert Downey Jr. walked the carpet, which was powder blue to honor the museum's Jaws exhibition. The fundraiser event celebrated Cruz, Bowen Yang, filmmaker Walter Salles, and rocker Bruce Springsteen, who performed a live set. Director Amy Hamas said the gala raised over $12 million, the museum's record since opening in 2021.
I thought I dressed warmer than yesterday, but that chill felt stronger than expected. It's unusual to shiver when the leaves haven't even turned into autumn colors yet. This dramatic cold is caused by the frigid air streaming in from the northwest. But the air will get much softer as the week goes on, and we can expect things to return to normal by Thursday. Skies nationwide will be mostly cloudy before gradually clearing later today. However, eastern regions will stay gray throughout the day. Then East Coast will see 5 to 20 millimeters of more rainfall through late tonight. And this afternoon could feel breezier than yesterday. Seoul gets up to 15 degrees Celsius under brighter skies, Daegu topping out at 18 degrees. Rain in East Coast will continue through Friday. Meanwhile, keep those winter coats on until tomorrow. Then relief on Thursday will ease us back into that comfortable autumn air.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
To set the facts straight. Get Korea right.
안녕하세요. 방크에서 활동하는 박지은 연구원입니다. 한글은 600년의 역사를 가진 우리나라 고유의 문자인데요. 한글에 대해 잘 모르는 분도 많고 또 잘못된 정보를 접한 분도 꽤 있더라고요. 사이버 외교사절 딴 방크의 일원으로서 제가 한글에 대한 올바른 정보를 전달해 드릴게요. 한글은 조선 4대 왕인 세종대왕이 1443년에 창제한 글자예요. 한글은 자음과 모음으로 구성되어 있는데요. 자음은 입술, 이, 목구멍과 같이 발음 기관의 모양이나 그 움직임을 본떠 만들었고요. 모음은 하늘, 땅, 사람을 본떠 만들었답니다. 한글의 창제 원리와 사용법을 써놓은 훈민정음 해례본은 1962년 대한민국 국보로 지정되었고 1997년 유네스코 세계기록유산으로 등재되었습니다. 창적이고 과학적이며 아름다운 문자인 한글, 한국인의 위대한 문화유산입니다. 한국 바로 알리기, 여러분도 함께 해주세요.
제주 영어 교육 도시의 중심 NLCS 제주에서 세계 명문대 출신 엘리트 교사진과 해외 커리큘럼으로 전 세계 상위 1%의 학사 성과를 달성하고 있으며 졸업생들은 세계 최정상급 대학으로 진학하고 있습니다. 전인적인 성장과 함께 꿈을 찾아가는 특별한 교육의 가치, 글로벌 동문 네트워크로 계속됩니다. NLCS 제주가 명문대 진학의 길을 열어갑니다.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Tuesday, October 21st here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Jihyun.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, and also Wonbin's with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's the second day of the work week, and I thought we'd start with something a bit special today. And I actually brought some Korean-style wedding invitations with me. I have 3 of them right here. So take a look at how beautiful they are. So the design, the calligraphy, they're really something else. And now I'm guessing both of you are familiar with these wedding invitations.
Yes.
And for viewers who aren't, they're not just invitations. They're kind of become a work of art, as you can see here. They're quite beautiful. And it's a little glimpse into what Korean wedding traditions look like. So Jihyun, I'm sure you've received one of these before.
Yes, I have. have received ones, not once, but many, and also I have actually made one of those invitations by myself. And most of my friends sent both the digital ones and the printed versions as well. When I got the printed version, the printed invitation cards, we usually meet for a quick meal or coffee together. It feels more personal that way, like an opportunity to chit-chat a little bit before the big day. And I think that's something quite unique and lovely about Korean culture.
So we're going to get into that a bit more later, but what about you, Wonbin? Have you received one of these before?
Well, I haven't made one yet. I definitely plan to make one in the future. But for getting the invitations cards, yes, I do get them, usually from my students. Actually, recently, one of my students gave me an invitation card, and she actually invited me to a local restaurant around town because we both lived in the same area. And it was before the wedding. We were just talking about how she was planning it and how busy it was and everything before and after. And I remember that it was a decently premium Italian restaurant. Yeah, so it was quite nice.
I feel like that's a place a lot of people tend to hold wedding invitation gatherings at. So receiving an invitation in person is meaningful not just because it formally invites you to share in the couple's special day, but also because it provides a rare chance to connect and catch up with friends and family. So let's take a look at the screen to learn more.
It's fall, a season for weddings. And with weddings come many cherished traditions like exchanging wedding gifts. One of these is the gathering centered around wedding invitations. Recently, though, it's become a topic of discussion because of the extra cost it adds for couples who are already facing financial pressure while preparing for marriage. Today on News Generation, we'll take a closer look at the controversy surrounding this gathering, how the tradition has changed over time, and share our own personal thoughts on it. So as we just saw in the video, many of us have probably received wedding invitations, especially around this time of the year, since fall is often considered the perfect season for weddings. But what used to be a warm, friendly get-together to hand out wedding invitations has now become something many people are starting to question because of the growing financial burden it brings. But before we dive into the details, since this custom is quite unique to Korea, could you explain what exactly wedding invitation gathering is, Wonbin?
Of course I can. So this invitation gathering, or in Korean we say 청모 or 청첩장 모임, is a gathering where the bride and groom-to-be invite their friends to have lunch or dinner and hand out the invitation card that they made for their wedding. And we all know that attending a wedding event is not the easiest thing. You know, we have to arrange our time accordingly. We also have to dress formally, although it did become more casual than before. And sometimes we even have to travel long distance to go there. Since it does take a lot of effort for the attendees to be there, it's the host's method of saying thank you or showing appreciation. Now, because of this culture in Korea, there are actually many restaurants that are popular for having 청모. That is a good place for people to do 청모. They usually have good seats with good views, with big windows, usually aside of a lake or a river. They have menus that most people like and a price range that is not too expensive, but still premium enough to feel to make the moment feel sincere and genuine. Yeah,
right.
Usually ranging anywhere from $15 to $40 to $50 per person.
Right, so these invitation gatherings aren't happening in cheap places at all. So it's not just a meal, it's seen as part of proper etiquette before the wedding. So even recommendations for restaurants that are good for holding these gatherings, the fact that they have become a trend really shows how commonplace this has really become. And I can see how that adds up quite quickly, especially if you're inviting several groups of people. So even with the rising cost, are people still feeling a bit pressured to hold these gatherings, Jian?
They do, in fact. Well, even with all the added expenses, many people still feel it's something they should do, they ought to do before the wedding. There was a recent survey of 300 single men and women in Korea, and almost 80% said they would host a wedding invitation gathering or chongmo when they get married. It's now practically a must-do among the MZ generation, and most people said that it feels more polite to hand the invitation in person, and others mentioned they simply wanted to spend some time with their friends, chit-chat a little bit, or thought it might encourage the guests to attend the wedding. So it's such a lovely mix of tradition and thoughtfulness. It shows a respect showing while sharing a warm personal moment, and people usually meet over a nice meal, as one been mentioned, which adds a friendly touch to the invitation itself. So it's not just about giving an invitation itself, it's a little celebration before the big day. Quite charming indeed.
I agree. I feel like there's now like an idea that giving the invitation in person feels more sincere. So it's almost like an unwritten rule now, something people feel that they should do rather than sometimes they want to do. So it's interesting how etiquette and emotion play such a big role, even as financial concerns grow. But there are all these other expenses that come with weddings. There's the housing, obviously the wedding venue and honeymoon. So how big of a financial burden does this add, Wonbin?
Yeah, what you said is actually very true. To be blunt, the concerns, it all usually comes down to the matter of cost. Since the hosts are usually paying for the food, the chongmo or the invitation gathering cost does add up to a significant amount. For better understanding, let's do a quick example. So let's say that each chongmo meal costs $30 per person, and there is an average of four people per meal. That's $120 per gathering. And if you have 10 of those meetings, that becomes $1,200 right there. And don't forget that we have to multiply that number by 2, since both the bride and the groom will be holding separate chongmos, and that ends up to be about $2,500 just for the invitation gatherings, not to mention the coffee that we're going to have afterwards or the rounds to alcohols if it's dinner. And again, we all know that getting married is expensive, and handling the gathering costs on top of everything is just very burdensome.
I mean, hearing those numbers really highlights that it's such a huge amount of money just for handing out invitations, but it really shows how much societal expectations can add to this pressure. And with all the other big expenses that come with weddings, I can see why many couples find this part stressful. So with all that in mind, I'm curious, how has this culture of holding these get-togethers to hand out wedding invitations evolved over time, Jian?
Well, I do believe that it's not exactly a new trend now. This trend, this kind of gathering has been around for quite a certain period of time. When I tied the knot, we already had this custom of meeting chongmo, and we also handed out the invitations. But back then, sending only a mobile version felt a bit impersonal, quite rude indeed. Even, you know, some might feel like, am I not that important to you? You just want me to attend your wedding and deliver the gift or money to you? And mobile invitations were mostly used as a follow-up tool for them just to share the details, time or location. So the in-person gathering naturally became a space for connection for people and deliver your gratitude. And so over time, it turned into something of an expected formality that you've got to do that before the wedding. And many people still appreciate the goodwill behind it, though some feel pressured once you've treated to dinner, maybe an expensive one. Attending the wedding almost feels mandatory for you. You know, you've got to go there. There's also growing pressure about the wedding gift money, the cash gift for the wedding, which is known as chugigum in Korean, since people feel they should give at least the value of the meal they were treated, if not more, to, you know, show proper respect to the bride and groom. It's a delicate balance between sincerity and social expectation, isn't it? So it's kind of a, you know, balanced thing that you've got to think about it a lot. Yes.
It's quite complicated. So do you feel like the money that, you know, the cost of the meal should be included in like the wedding fee?
I think it should be a little bit, at least, you know, the meal that you were treated, you know, you should add that, a little bit of it, you know. Because like, for one, I have actually to have a lot of chongmo before I got married, tied the knot. I think I had more than 10, so 10 meetings beforehand. So
because now I feel like it's almost kind of like you said, it's impersonal. It's almost insulting if you just get sent that link to the wedding invitation. So it's a bit sticky situation. So far we've discussed how wedding invitation gatherings have evolved from a warm gesture of sincerity to something that can feel sometimes like a financial burden. Also to hear a broader range of opinions, we reached out to our viewers on the Arirang News YouTube channel and asked, What do you think about this Korean custom of holding gatherings to hand out wedding invitations? So let's see what they had to say. So according to the survey results, 45% said they appreciate the sentiment, but still find them somewhat burdensome. Another 27% felt that the gatherings are much more of a burden for the couples themselves, and about 20% of respondents said they view these gatherings as sincere gestures, while the remaining 8% gave other responses. So this kind of lines up with what we've been talking about. And so to also get a global perspective, we'll be hearing from a young person currently living overseas who will share how wedding customs abroad compared to those here in Korea. And that conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Julie, a Korean university student living in Canada. So hi Julie, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So how do people usually announce their weddings in Canada? Are there any pre-wedding gatherings or parties?
Yeah, so Canada is such a multicultural country that it's really going to depend on the culture. But in the past, it's been a lot of actual physical wedding invitation letters being sent out through mail. But in this past decade, with the evolution of technology and everything becoming so digitalized, I've seen a lot of couples who will actually create their own wedding website where they'll post their announcement, and anyone with the link can join and see any live updates. And for the pre-wedding and wedding gatherings, we don't really have anything like that to hand out invitations. We do have something like the bachelor and the bachelorette party, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a party to celebrate them separately, the couple. There's also an engagement party, but that's also really up to the couple's choice.
Creating their own website, that sounds very interesting. Then how do Korean wedding customs like invitation gatherings or giving cash gifts compare to wedding traditions where you live?
So from my experience, I feel like the Korean wedding customs are a lot more traditional and they are really respectful to culture, whereas Western wedding customs or Canadian wedding customs, I feel like are a bit more celebratory and have an emphasis on giving the guests a good and fun time. So there's like live music, open bars, things like that. But even like the notion of giving cash as a gift is very quintessentially Korean. It's not very common in Canada. I think it's somewhat seen as direct or a little blunt to give cash in an envelope as a wedding gift. So instead, what the couple will do is that they'll have something called a wedding gift registry. Well, they'll list the things that they would like someone else to purchase, and then the guests can go on and sign off what they purchase. And those are usually like household items, like a toaster, a blender, and things that they'll use in the future.
As a fellow Canadian or someone who's from Canada, I can definitely agree with your answer. Now, what are your personal thoughts on the Korean custom of holding a wedding invitation gathering?
I love it. I think it's really personal and more intimate. I feel like it's a bit more like respectful than kind of just sending a letter to someone you haven't maybe seen in years, and it gives you the perfect opportunity to see them under such a beautiful circumstance. And also, I think the invitation gathering is kind of the beginning of the union of the two families, which I know is quite traditional, but it is really what the wedding is supposed to be about. And also, I have pictures from my family's wedding gathering, like invitation event, and my parents, like, they look great, and it's such a great memory to have, so it's really lovely.
I agree with what you said about how it feels a lot more intimate and it also feels more personal. And also, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we just heard from someone who's living in a different country about how weddings are celebrated there, how their customs compare to Korea's, and her perspective on the Korean tradition of holding invitation gatherings. Now, some people criticize these gatherings for being too expensive and even a bit burdensome, but Jun, as someone who's married and has personally hosted these get-togethers, what are your own thoughts on them? Do you see any positive to these traditions, or do you feel the cost outweigh the benefits of
I think both, yes.
It's a very honest answer.
Yes, indeed. Well, I wouldn't call these gatherings, these meetings, a bad thing. It's you have that because you actually want to meet the people, and they actually have their own charm. Weddings can be very busy, at that time you've got to prepare this and that. It's hard to have a proper conversation with anyone on the actual big day. So meeting close friends beforehand gives you a chance to really chit-chat a little bit, talk about your life and where you met your Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, and where you're going to start your new place together. And when a friend who's already married attends that meeting, you can get some useful tips from him or her, like, general information. And when I got married, I also met a few of my dearest friends over a nice meal in order to hand them the invitation card. And it felt more like personal, more sincere, like saying thank you in advance. Thank you for attending my wedding in advance. And there may not be one way to show gratitude or gratitude or celebrate love, but moments like these can make the journey feels more, sincere, more genuine. And for those who couldn't make it, I made sure to call or send a heartfelt message instead, and I actually met them after my honeymoon. And it's a lovely tradition, really a mix of friendly spirit, gratitude, and a touch of elegance a little bit. And after all, what's a celebration without a little human connection?
I think you summed it up really well. As someone's only been to these gatherings, I mean, it's really nice because, like you said, it's a good time to kind of hear the behind the scenes of how they prepared for the wedding, like you said, and also, but I understand from their perspective, like you said you held more than 10 of these.
Yeah,
so I can understand how expensive these can get. So it's a double-edged sword, and it's a really thoughtful way to look at it. It's more about spending quality time with friends than just handing out these invitations. And I also love that you found a way to include those who couldn't make it with a call or message. You did a really great job of following up with them. It really shows how people appreciate it when they see others make an effort. So in a way, it turns what some see as an obligation to a meaningful moment to connect. So what about you, woman? What are your thoughts on this custom?
I just want to say that I could really feel the experience of invitation gatherings from your answers. It was just so perfect. I don't know what else could there be for me to add, but in my opinion, I agree with everything that Chun said. And on top of that, for me, it doesn't really matter if I meet the friends before the wedding. So if I do meet my close friends, sure, I'm more than happy to meet them. But if I don't, it's not a big deal as well. And it's because when I meet my friends or when I meet my close friends to eat food or in general, we know that we don't do maths when we meet. Like, we don't think about who's gonna buy or who's paying more or less. I'm always more than happy to buy him a meal, and he's always ready to do the same for me. So having a meal or the price of the meal that we're gonna have is absolutely not important at all. Like, it can even be just a quick meetup for a coffee. The important part is that we meet. So, and even if we don't meet because of any kind of reason, again, it's not a big deal for me. So with close friends, I'm more than happy to meet and talk with them, even just for a cup of coffee. If not, it is what it is.
I agree. Even though the intention is good, making it feel obligatory can create unnecessary pressure. And what you just said is a reminder that culture customs should adapt to people's real lives and not just be followed out of expectation. And with changing attitudes and lifestyles, how do you think the culture around wedding customs are evolving or will evolve in the future?
Well, I'm not sure how this custom will change in the future, but it is definitely evolving already. And these days, more couples prefer small ones, intimate wedding styles, or even party-style celebrations. Traditional elements like officiants or ministers, or even the pebek ceremony, which is a Korean traditional post-wedding ritual to honor the parents after the wedding, actual wedding, are slowly fading away. And even my brother had none of these, just a few heartfelt words shared by both fathers. So perhaps in time, those pre-wedding dinners will also take off on a new, lighter form in the future. And after all, you have nothing to prove by following every old custom. Just sharing the joy in your own way is enough. Less bowing, more celebrating sounds fair to me.
As someone who's obviously hosted a wedding, what's one tradition you think could be left out?
Could be left out, or 예단 or 예모. We talked about this in advance. That the 예단 or 예모 is the ones that you exchange those jewelry and these expensive the money itself.
Gifts,
and you give cash gifts
or luxury items to each other.
That's fair. That's fair, and that's a great point. As weddings become more personalized, the whole culture on invitation gatherings will naturally shift as well. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I agree. Again, I agree with everything that Xian said. She's much more experienced in this area. I personally think that we should stop thinking the wedding day as a special day or, you know, a once in a lifetime event, because just hear me out. Okay. I have a reason. And because I'm only saying this because this is the root of all of the unnecessary emotions, expenses, and being calculative on everything, which includes the Cheongmo conflict that we just talked about. The biggest reason why Cheongmo has conflicting opinion is because of the cost. Now, the second reason is because we don't know who we should invite or who we should not. Because, you know, in our relationship, there are some people where we feel like if we invite them, they would be too pressured to attend. And there are also people where we feel like if we don't invite them, they would get upset. So that's one of the biggest dilemmas. And at the end of the day, you know, it's not a big deal. And that person not coming to the wedding, it's not going to change if you're going to have a good marriage life or not, right? And we should never expect someone to buy me a meal because I'm going to attend to their wedding. And on the other hand, we should never grantedly expect someone to come to our wedding because we bought them a meal. People can have other plans or other situations, problems in their own life, and I don't think that we should get too upset for them not coming. However, with that being said, I am very happy that people are challenging this culture because this means that this culture is changing, and I hope that it can change in a better way that can benefit everyone.
Right, so I think what you're saying is that obviously this is a very important day, but it's important to not have too much of a high expectation, to focus on what's actually really important. It's supposed to be a happy day. You're supposed to celebrate the happy couples. That's the thing people should remember.
Yes.
So while wedding invitation gatherings have their challenges, from financial pressures to social expectations, it's also clear that the tradition carries meaningful value for many. And it's important for both the couples preparing to get married and those around them to remember that the most important thing is to celebrate a happy occasion. And wedding preparation shouldn't become a source of stress. The focus should always be on enjoying this special time together. And as weddings continue to evolve, so will the customs around them, leaving room for more personal, thoughtful, and flexible ways to celebrate life's big moments. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Chuyeon.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming in. Also, Wonbin.
Always a pleasure.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you have the best day. We are News Generation.
갈까요?
갈까요? 갈까요?
갈까요?
어디 가요?
한글 만나러!
Welcome to APEC.
여기 202호 차 좀 빼주세요. 202호.